begin making my steamed meal by making my tomato sauce in the bottom of the pot here. So let's get the power on. We've got some olive oil in there and I'm going to put it onto sear and saute. Now I will give you a couple of different options. You can use some tinned tomatoes or you can use fresh tomatoes. So let's go and get the tomatoes ready. But the first thing we need is some onion in here. So you want an onion, normally a white onion, but I've only got red onion today, so that's what I'm going to put in. Doesn't really matter too much. I'm also going to add in carrots. So you want a couple of decent sized carrots for this. Now I'm making a really big batch of tomato sauce here. So if you don't want to make as much, you can half the sauce. It's really up to you. But I just like to make a big batch. We've got so many tomatoes left over in my garden from the summertime. It's just such a waste, you know, to not use them. So here I have got 800 grams of tomatoes and I've chopped those up. Now, if you're not using these, you can do equivalent. So you can do 2 tins of tomatoes, just chopped ones, really cheap in the supermarket. It's going to work just as well. But of course, these tomatoes are going to have bags of flavour because they were picked straight from the garden. So to my tomatoes, I now want to add some water. Now I'm going to start off with 100 ml. I might increase that though. Because I'm using fresh tomatoes, I'm going to get a lot of liquid come out of those. And by the way, I'm on the high sear and saute at the moment. Now you can use garlic granules, you can use fresh garlic, whatever you've got. I've got a little bit of lazy garlic left. So I'm just going to add some of this lazy garlic in just to use up what's left in the pot here. And then I'm just going to top that up with some granules. You want about 2 teaspoons overall. And then I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, a tablespoon of tomato puree. It's optional, but you can add a little bit of sugar. Tablespoon maximum should be good. And then a tablespoon of Worcester sauce as well, that goes in. So we're making a really flavoursome base here. Let's give that a stir. Let's see where we are with that. Now, because I'm using these fresh tomatoes, I'm definitely going to want to give mine a blitz and make this smooth. I've got a lot of seeds in there, just because they were very seedy, these tomatoes. But now I need to cook this down because we want these carrots to go soft. So we need to leave this on the sear and saute. If you're using tinned tomatoes, you know, you could leave it chunky if you want to. It's just really personal preference, just what you like, isn't it? So we'll let that keep cooking down for now. I'm also going to add in some basil as well. So around a tablespoon of basil. I like my herbs in my tomato sauce. Now you can also add to this some passata and that will give you, you know, a bigger bulk of sauce as well. So if you've got passata in your cupboard and you want to make an even bigger batch, then you can add around 500 ml of passata if you want to. I just didn't add too much water because of these being fresh tomatoes, but I think that was about right, the amount. It's just 100 ml that I put in here. I've got a bowl here and I'm adding some steak mince, and this is a 5% fat one. It doesn't really matter though, you use whatever you want. This is a bit of a use up recipe for me tonight. So in there I've got 250 grams, but you can double this up if you're making it for more people. And then I have got some sausage meat. Let's just weigh out how much I've got left there. So 150 grams of sausage meat to the 250 grams of beef mince. If you haven't got sausage meat like I've got there, then just take some sausages out of the skins. It's going to work just as well. So what I'm going to do is just give these a little mash together. Now you can see, because I've got that pork there, that it's already seasoned, because this is ready, you know, to put into sausage rolls or make stuffing or whatever you use it for. So I'm just making up my meatballs whilst that sauce is simmering away, getting those carrots nice and soft. It's really, really easy to make this dish. And we're going to be using steam meals to cook this all at once. Unfortunately, my sausage meat isn't breaking up all that well, but I want a bit of pork and a bit of beef in every mouthful, ideally. So I'm going to season this with black pepper. Now, I'm not adding any onion or anything like that to this, purely because I've got the carrot and the onion already in my sauce. We've got all the herbs in there as well, so I'm keeping my meatballs fairly plain and simple. So I'm just cracking an egg here, just into a mug. Let's give that a whisk. Now, I don't think I'm going to need a whole egg because I've kind of got half ingredients here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of egg in to start with. And then we want to put in some breadcrumbs. And in all honesty, I don't know how many I'm putting in. So let's go under the scales and let's just add it in. Let's have a look what we look like. Okay, so that's 30 grams that I've added there. And I'm just going to mix this together to a point where I think we can actually form some nice juicy meatballs that are going to hold together and stick together. I do actually fancy putting in a little bit of parsley, half a teaspoon-ish. I've got it in my store cupboard, so I thought, let's just actually season this with a little herb as well. And I quite like the little green flecks running through it as well. It's nice. Okay, I think that looks good. So we had 30 grams of breadcrumbs, and then, I don't know if you can see, it's probably just over half an egg. But if you have a look, if you put this into my hands now and roll it, that is holding together and sticking together pretty well. So I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going back onto sear and saute, not too high here. So I've removed the tomato sauce and I have just used a stick blender to give that a good blend. Now my meatballs I have made this size, you can see that in the palm of my hand, and I've just rolled those and I've managed to make 15 of these. Just going to brown them off on the edges. To be honest, you can miss this step if you don't want to do this. We are going to go on to steam meals, but I don't know, there's just something about browning these off that I just like to do. So that's what I'm doing. So now we're ready to put together our steam meal. In goes my tomato sauce in the bottom. Lovely. I'm going to keep this jug because I'm going to use this to put some water in a moment. I've got 225 grams of pasta here. I've got a little bit of a mixture. So as always, just lay that on the top and don't kind of push it right down. I'm going to go and grab some water. Okay, so I've got 200 mils of water here. Let's see when we add this on top whether it looks like enough. That looks just right to me. 200 mils of water, and that's boiling water. I've just got that straight out of a kettle. Brilliant. So now we put the rack over the top. So just give that a little jiggle. And then my meatballs, I am going to sit on top here. As you can see, they're not cooked through. I literally just browned the outside. What I find when I do a steam meal is often the top section is going to brown the most. So the side of my meatballs that isn't as browned, I'm going to leave showing on top. So like this one's got the colour, that will go down on the bottom like that. Okay, they fit on there absolutely perfectly. Look at those, just turn those ones over slightly. So this is 15 meatballs there. So the pasta and the sauce and the meatballs is all going to cook at once. Of course, if you want to make this so much quicker as a midweek meal and you haven't got time to do that prep that I've just done, buy a tomato sauce, buy your meatballs even quicker. Brilliant, we're ready to go. So the lid goes down. And I have got the vent up here, which you don't need. Loads of people ask me about this. It is the pressure valve, so only for pressure cooking. Let's press start. Now you could layer this up as well, just thinking about it, with something else on the rack. So if you wanted to add maybe some broccoli or something, you could definitely do that. I'm serving peas on the side of mine tonight just because that's what my son likes. But if you want to add a vegetable in, then please do that. So across to the middle section, which is your combi steam. This is steam meals that I'm on here. And we want the temperature to go down to 170. And I'm going to cook this for 14 minutes. So I've actually taken these out when there was 3 minutes left. So that was 11 minutes. And they look great to me. Lovely amount of colour, and they are cooked. So I'm just leaving the last couple of minutes. I tested the pasta and it was just about done. Show you in there. Whoa, we're steaming up. And the pasta is done really, really nicely. So I can serve up dinner. The meatballs were done enough for me. They are so bronzed on the outside and they're cooked in the middle. You could actually put them on the lower rack if you wanted to, and they probably would get a little bit less colour, but I quite like mine like this anyway. And so I'm just letting the pasta run and finish for the full 14 minutes because I just felt when I tested it, it still needed it a little bit. So it depends how al dente you like your pasta. We like ours a bit softer, so I'm just finishing it off for the full 14 minutes. But these came out at 11. So I'm just serving myself up some pasta in this delicious tomato sauce. Look at that. It's cooked just right. I've got a bit of a mixture of pasta here. It's just what was left over in my cupboard. There you go, pasta. Then we can pop some of our meatballs, which have stayed lovely and warm. Let's get those on there as well. And I'm going to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese over the top. As a steamed meal, that worked really well. There's a couple of things I would do different, so I thought I'd just let you know. So the pasta did need the full time, which was absolutely fine. So 14 minutes, it worked really well. And then with regards to the meatballs, I'd probably either make them a bit bigger or I would put them on the rack below. I definitely wouldn't sear and saute them to start with, although it's nice to kind of create that bit of colour and that flavour in the bottom of the pot ready for your pasta and your sauce. It really isn't necessary. They brown off so beautifully using just the steam meals alone. The reason I'd probably put them down on the rack slightly is because they do get quite a browned edge. I really like mine like that, but my husband said they were probably a little bit too done and they could have been a little bit less done. So that would be my tip. Don't sear and saute them, make them slightly bigger and just put them a little bit lower on the rack, and I think it would be absolutely perfect. The sauce was so delicious, well worth making your own tomato sauce if you've got the time. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Sorry that it wasn't absolutely perfect, but hopefully those tips have helped you and I've learned from it and you've learned from it too. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new here and give me a like as well. See you next time for another video.